Hey everybody, Dr. Rob Silverman here. I'm with my good friend, personal trainer, health advocate extraordinaire, Christian Palmer. Christian, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. And I'm going to add nutritionist primarily. I also do train, but men's health specialist and nutritionist.
Absolutely. That's what you hear from men's health specialists, because me, like all people in my age bracket, we all need some help. So let's just dig in. Why do so many men struggle now to feel energetic, experiencing low libido, and they also seem to be struggling to lose weight? I mean, this is early, man. They say you're not supposed to feel your age decrease till you hit the 70 years old. I'm having 35-year-old people coming in and having low energy, low libido, etc.
That's a good question. So a lot of it has to do with the change in society. We live in an environment now where you no longer have to work to do things, to get things. Let's look at food, right? If we were still in hunter-gatherer times, hey, there goes a deer, you got to go chase it with a spear. All right, well, you're going to get your exercise in without having to go to a gym. You're going to be motivated because that's your livelihood. If you don't eat that thing, you die, and your people in your tribe die. Nowadays, you can just get your phone and order Uber Eats and sit in your house. You can have everything you need delivered by Amazon. You can have your doctor come to your house. I think we live in a society where there's less men with missions. And when a man doesn't have a mission, I think that he loses some vigor for life, right? He doesn't feel like he has a sense of purpose. And I think that translates into how people live their lives, right? I'm a firm believer that how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you don't have a need to be fit, right? Because you can be out of shape and survive just fine because you're protected by society, then you're going to, okay, well, I don't really take care of my body too much. So then maybe I'm not really going to care so much about my relationships. So then I don't really feel like getting up this morning on time. So I don't, right? I think there's this primal side of men that needs to be expressed, and that starts with exercise. And what's beautiful about that is all the other things fall into play when it comes to hormones, when it comes to feeling like, oh, the alarm clock goes off. All right, get up. I got to get to work. I got calls to make. I got, take care of the kids, so on and so forth. So I think starting with, there's a lack of desire to be better, to be stronger, to be fit, to be a leader.
That's great. So basically, the fact that we are in feast and not famine has changed society to a certain extent. We're getting a little too comfortable. I got it. You're right. Uber Eats, DoorDash, you can get whatever you want. And of course, the standard American diet, and I know you're going to get into that with being having such a strong nutritional background, and also, men's health advocate. You're going to talk about the fact that the food that we're consuming is too high in ultra-processed food. These are not muscle-enhancing type of nutrients. And I know you want to emphasize the idea of low testosterone. Taking that idea of low testosterone, what health problems will a man face that has low testosterone?
So testosterone is the thing that makes us men, right? It gives us a feeling of purpose. It gives us some level of aggression when we need it. It gives us energy. It gives us the desire to pursue women. It gives us strength, right? It allows us to function like we should. It allows us to feel happy as much as, yes, dopamine, serotonin, and all those things, the HPA axis, all these things are where testosterone is produced. All these things are intertwined. So I have men that come to me and they'll say, hey, Christian, let's say he's 45 years old. Man, I don't feel that same vigor I had when I was 35, when I was 30. When I get up in the morning, I don't have that zest to get up and go tackle my career. And my libido's down. My wife is suffering because we're not as intimate as we used to be. When I get home, I'm so tired from the day. Kids are like, Daddy, like, can we go throw the football? And he's like, yeah, give me a little while. Maybe I'll take a nap. Or, we'll do it tomorrow, bud. And that's where it starts. And the problem is that a lot of us as men were hard-headed. Oh, I'll be fine. I'll be fine, bro, right? We don't tell our friends about it because we're embarrassed. You're not going to tell your friend you have sexual dysfunction. Yeah, man, I'm having trouble getting it up. Your friends are going to be like, all right. And then I can't tell my wife because then what's she going to think of me? I'm supposed to be the rock, the leader of the household. So men, one, a lot of them complain of depression. And then your chance of cardiovascular events goes up, right? So bone health, all the things that you want in a healthy body change because hormones control everything. So low T is not just, and a lot of guys will compartmentalize. Oh, low T or testosterone just means more muscle. No, it means better disposition. It means better sexual function, lower chance of heart attack. If you're doing optimization, not hyper physiological doses, right? We're not the bro who just does 500 MIGs a week because the guy in the gym told him to do that. I'm talking about working with a professional and getting yourself to a place where you're optimal. You feel good. You perform well in life. Your sexual function's fine. Your chance of heart attack goes down. And you're in a normal physiological dose. You're not, foot down on the gas, so to speak.
Right. So some of those symptoms of testosterone, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. Hair loss. Who the heck wants to lose their hair? I'm not trying to be funny. Low libido, erectile dysfunction, muscle mass. We got to dig into that a little bit. Chronic fatigue, mood changes, weight gain, especially in the waist. And some men actually start getting breast tissue because of low testosterone. Here's one for you. I want you to run with this. I saw a study that said over 40% of men aged 45 and older have low testosterone. That's almost half of the American population have a testosterone problem. So that said, what are your suggestions for it? And let's dig into TRT. If they're considering it, where should they get started?
Okay, so first and foremost, even before, if a guy comes to me and he says, Christian, I've got these issues. I don't feel like I used to. I want to feel more energetic. I'm having problems building muscle. I'm nowhere near as strong as I was. I've got depression, so on and so forth. The first thing I'm going to look at is your lifestyle. How are you living? Meaning, are you actually trying your best to get enough sleep? What is enough? Let's say between 7 to 9 hours a night. Are you a type A personality, right? Did you just walk off of Wall Street and you lost your best client today? Your wife angers you all the time. You got kids running around the house. So you come home and you're like, God, Jesus Christ, right? And then you're up all night trying to do business deals or fix problems, put fires out. And you're up early, only coffee, no good meals. And you're just basically flying by the seat of your pants trying to live life. That is not a good internal environment for a man to make testosterone. And let's say that same individual, planes, trains, automobiles, because they're traveling for business. They don't have enough time to exercise on a regular basis. So they're out of shape. They've got, the visceral fat buildup, that typical, we'll call it pear shape, or at least maybe even getting towards that. And then they come and say, well, I think I have low T. I'm not surprised to hear that. So then I'd say, before I even would mention testosterone, let's look at your lifestyle first. When it comes to even considering something like HRT, you have to understand that the vessel that is your body needs to have a good enough internal environment to allow said hormone to do what it's supposed to do, right? Which, first and foremost, if you fix those things, I've had guys that their testosterone goes up just by cleaning up their diet, lifestyle, getting this right. Dude, make an hour for yourself a week. Go on a hike. Go to the batting cages. Do something that you can escape work, family, and just be you. Hang out with the boys. Have some cigars. No, I'm not advocating cigars, but some guys like to, enjoy a couple. And that's their thing. So it's getting back to getting away from the stress, embracing more of the eating well, exercising. And the other thing is you got to look at the products and foods you use, like you mentioned. So, this is a whole nother topic, but let's, just to round off, that's where I start. If you're not there, right, if you're listening to this right now and you're saying, man, that's me, I'm having sexual dysfunction, having trouble losing weight, building muscle, so on and so forth. And you're thinking, oh, wow, yeah, sleep, I get like 4 hours a night, 5 hours. Exercise, yeah, I go for a walk every couple of days. That doesn't really do much. And I'm not eating on a regular schedule or the best choice of foods. Start with those first. Take steps, because you want, I'm a critical point analysis. What's the smallest change we can make to create the largest effect, right? So if you just cleaning up your diet, you're already feeling more energetic, boom, we didn't have to do anything else. Then you start exercising. Hey man, I feel really good. I'm sweating. I feel strong, right? Boom, that's another notch. And hey, you know what I did? Like I'm doing, maybe it's morning meditation, 5 minutes guided with an app. Wow, I start the day off less stressed. I don't need as much coffee. And now I'm sleeping better. So now I don't need, it's more so that I don't need much coffee because I'm not trying to make up for a lack of sleep. And no, you can't make up for sleep on the weekends. If you lose it, you lost it. So here's the things that I look for and that I make sure my guys do. Then if we've done everything we could and still I'm just not feeling good, man. All right. Then let's look at your blood work. And I may have them do that from the start anyway. Let's look at your blood work, right? Resting glucose, what's your free T, total T. And then if something like HRT it makes sense at that point, then I will connect you with one of the doctors in my network, and then we'll, get you on that path and see what's needed.
So basically you're saying about where the vessel, you want you want to optimize what they can do on their own before they would even consider taking any supplemental hormones. So that said, let's do a rapid fire. I saw a reel that you did on protein and how much protein to eat. So if you could share those highlights, that would be a great takeaway for everybody listening.
Protein, it's necessary for building muscle. It's also responsible for the regeneration and maintenance of our hair, nails, eyes, skin. All of our tissues have protein in them. So if you've tracked on an app like Chronometer and you realize you're not getting enough, how do you get more? Some people will say, oh, I find it hard to get enough protein. I'll say, okay, well, are you eating 3 meals a day? Sometimes. Okay, well, let's get that squared away and make protein the priority. So what I'd mentioned is that if you prioritize protein in your meals, the rest tends to come together. For most people, it's not hard to find carbs to eat. In fact, that's often the issue that they have when it comes to gaining weight. Same thing with fat. Protein seems to be the one that's less accessible when you're not used to making it the priority of your meal. So let's say in the morning, and some people will say, oh, I'm so busy in the morning, I can't eat breakfast. Can't eat breakfast. So I'll say, hey, a good quality protein powder is a way to go, right? You can put together a protein shake, and I mean a whole food protein shake. So let's say that protein shake has, for example, some people, again, people want what's easy. Let's say you put dry oatmeal in there. Let's say you put berries in there. Let's say you put some MCT oil in there and then protein powder. That takes you 4 minutes to make, blend, and then you're on your way. You could drink it while you're on your way to work. That's your first bolus of protein. And let's say they look at the number they need. Because I had mentioned in that reel 160 grams. I'm not recommending that for you. I'm just giving that as a random example. So 160 grams, let's say you break your day down into 4 servings of protein. Well, in the morning, for the average protein powder, 40 grams is going to be about a scoop and a half, right? So you put a scoop and a half in there, there's your first 40 grams. Then maybe your next meal is lunch. Okay, so lunch, the size of a deck of playing cards of, let's say, a piece of chicken is about 3 ounces, roughly. So that's maybe 25 grams of protein. So maybe that and another half of that, right? A size of a deck of playing cards and a half. There's your next serving of 40. Then your next meal, if you can get something in before you leave the office, what I tell my guys to do is if you're really that busy, get some protein powder, keep the tub in your office. There's usually a water cooler wherever you work, so it's not really an issue. Keep a protein shaker at your office, right? Get down that protein, and then when you come home, dinner is your last meal, right? So you've got breakfast where you had the shake, lunch where you had said meal, shake before you come home, and then you've got dinner. There's your 4 meals, or I should say your 4 servings of protein. And again, the other parts around it, getting yourself a good quality source of carbs, whatever that might be for you, whether it's rice, potatoes, whatever it ends up being, That's much easier. But if you prioritize the protein, then it becomes a habit. And then once you're used to it, it's not so hard to do. It's more so getting yourself familiar with the sources that you can consume every day, right? That you can eat repeatedly and not have to think too much about, because too much thinking usually equals not enough action. So whatever works for you, make that your daily thing. Maybe you've got 3 different flavors of protein powder. Oh, today I'll take strawberry, tomorrow vanilla, so you don't get bored, and just make that your habit.
That's great. So protein is the key to increase or hold on to muscle mass. We know that muscle mass is the longevity organ. You said schedule the protein. You were really good in referencing carbs because they're quality carbs. They're not refined carbs. So the refined carbs are shown to decrease testosterone. Some of the other things that are adverse that you probably want to kick in or avoid in the meats that you would eat would be the hormones. Just so you know, I've got it right here. It says love, caffeine, organic coffee, big proponent, oysters, olive oil, fatty fish, leafy greens. So it begs the question, which exercises are the best to ensure that you hold on to muscle mass and increase your testosterone levels? We'll take it from a 40-year-old or older male.
Okay. Great question, because I actually get this question a lot. So as human beings, we all generally move the same. It doesn't mean we can all lift the same amount of weight, and it doesn't, some people aren't dealing with pain or, some sort of dysfunction. But in general, you want a hinging pattern, like a type of deadlift. It doesn't mean you have to pick a barbell up off the floor, but it could be whatever works for you. A trap bar, a kettlebell, but a hinging pattern, right? Because if you drop your keys, you have to hinge to get it. Or your kid's on the floor. Hey, you got to pick up the baby. You hinge to get it. Some sort of squatting pattern. And maybe someone's at the point where I don't want to put a barbell on my back. Cool. A goblet squat where you put the weight in front of you, right? Or they've got tons of different kinds of bars now and apparatus and different machines that barbell squats are really not necessary to even develop muscular legs. But a leg press, so you have no axial loading, right? Make sure you do it correctly and don't let's not get into the details of how to work out, but there's a lot of different options. And when it comes to upper body, pressing, guys will always get their pressing in, right? Anytime they go to the gym.
Monday morning.
Yeah.
Monday back, chest and buys, right?
Exactly. And it's like when you ask them, hey man, what were your workouts? Well, I did chest Monday, I did buys and tries Tuesday. I'm like, did you get legs in? Oh yeah, a little bit. So I've had guys say, I walk, I run. I'm like, you're moving them, but you're not doing resistance training to them. So make sure I prioritize lower body. One, there's larger muscle groups there. So some people are concerned with burning calories. Well, a larger muscle moving will burn more calories than a smaller muscle like a bicep. And also, if you want to talk about functionality, a lot of people end up having falls and unfortunate catastrophe when they get older due to a lack of strength. Also, neurological function does degrade, but a lack of strength, right? You've seen a lot of older people get out of a chair and it's pretty labor intensive for them. If you have stronger legs, that task becomes easier, right? So I'll always say prioritize your lower body. The upper body, you'll get it in. You know what I mean? It's much easier for people to do a couple curls than it is for them to do a dedicated leg regimen.
I'm going to ask you specific exercises. You give me a yes or a no.
Okay.
40-year-old male or more, 40 to 60-year-old male, which is probably who we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. So I think I know the answer because you said it. Deadlift.
Yes.
Frontal squat, no loading to the spine.
Yes.
Farmer's walks.
Oh, yes.
Now, let me ask you, we get a lot of arguments, discussions is a better word, between Peter Tia, Andrew Huberman. So they'll say now a farmer's walk before a deadlift for somebody my age.
Okay. So yes, and I actually saw that podcast. So Peter Attia likes someone to do, it's for 2 minutes, I believe. He had extended the time to. You should be able to carry, is it your body weight or twice your body weight? Something like
body
that.
Weight.
Okay, for roughly 2 minutes, and it used to be he would say 1 minute. To which I say, hey Peter, how do you get that weight off the ground? Got to deadlift it up, right? So what you can do is now farmers walks, oftentimes, and depending on the person, It might be a handle set up where the handles are higher. So you don't have to hinge that far over to get it. Well, maybe pick that up and put it down 10 times, then go into the farmer's walk. You've just done 10 reps of a deadlift, right? Or a modified deadlift. So I think that if you break movements down, we all generally need to move similar ways to be healthy. And if you've had some sort of spinal issue, a herniation, disc degeneration where it's painful, of course, do no harm to yourself. That's first and foremost. But if you're able to do it, and also understand that the body is an ever-changing machine. So just because you're in a certain state currently doesn't mean you will stay there. That's why some people have pain at a certain point, then they change something about their lifestyle or their exercise or their diet, and the pain goes away. So it's not like, oh, I can't do that thing that was painful before anymore. Well, you're not in pain anymore. Oh, now I can do it without pain. So just because a deadlift hurts initially, and let's say you have no orthopedic issues, sometimes cleaning up your doing mobility work, full range of motion strength training, improving the tissue quality around your joints, the pain can subside or go away. And now that movement is available for you to do. So
how about these compound movements? And when I say compound, we used to refer to bench press and push press. I'm talking about multi-purpose movements. So we've got, I think they call it the Lee Priest press. Starts here and goes there. We have like the L press now, where you bring it up, go on the L and move it up. Some people do a bicep curl, because they all think that biceps are a big muscle. They're kind of long, but they're really not big. I mean, if you have a 20-inch arm like you, it's huge. Your quads, even a thin quad, is probably 23 to 25 inches just to start without any kind of hypertrophy. So what do you think of those? And especially for somebody like me who's limited to the time that they have and really limited to the time that they want to lift because of the recovery. So me as a 57-year-old man, I lift 4 days a week. But the problem that I found versus the 4 when I was your age, 25, is that the next day I'm ready to go. Now, the next day, I'm very happy that I am not lifting weights. So what do you think about those compound ones to get more muscle groups flowing in a symmetrical type of exercise?
I think that's ideal. So, okay, when we get into, I have a lot of guys come to me that are in pain, right? They have knee pain, lower back pain. It might be a guy who works on Wall Street. It might be an executive that sits at his desk all day. Some entrepreneur who's on the computer, right, doing his thing. And our bodies will mold to the positions that we're in most often, right? All of us listening likely know who Mike Tyson is, right? And if you look at his posture, he's got that forward shoulder posture. And that's because he spends his whole career like this. Conor McGregor is the same way. And if you change that, you ruin their career. But it doesn't mean that they shouldn't do certain movements if they have access out of that. So compound movements are how the body functions best. I'm going to make that bold statement. Think about for many people, the most meaningful things in life are family. Meaningful thing in life is family. So picture what picking up a kid off the floor and bringing him over your head looks like, because you want to make him smile and you're just in the moment, right? You hinge down, then you pick him up, bring him to your chest, and then you press him overhead, right? That's a compound movement. So I am definitely a fan of doing movements that replicate what a good life should look like. So if you want to pick your kid up, well, you can take a kettlebell and hinge it off the ground, bring it to your chest, push it overhead, or a barbell, whatever works for you. But I'm definitely a fan. Now, when it comes to saving time or for recovery's sake, let's say, you have to figure out what works for you. For the majority of people, if you're generally healthy, you're not likely struggling with overtraining. Most people, it's like, you got to get you doing a little bit more. But if you are one of those rare individuals that either trains a lot and you're like, I'm actually kind of tiring myself out, I would say, how's your sleep? How's your nutrition? But let's say that's squared away. Then I would do compound movements, and the smaller muscles tend to get worked when you do compound movements, not to the same degree. But if you're doing like a clean and press, your elbow flexes, so your biceps get work. Your tricep extends your elbow, so that gets work. And you use a lot of muscle in a short period of time. So you get good caloric expenditure. Your body, you learn to use your body as one unit, right? Versus the guy who's sort of got forward neck, forward shoulder. He works at a desk. I wouldn't tell him to hammer out biceps 2 days a week. I would tell him, let's get some rowing. Let's get some extension, elbow extension. Open up your upper torso. And sure, a tricep extension would be good for that guy because it's getting him out of the position that he's in very often. But it's very individual. But I would say compound movements are king for building muscle and for functionality, if you want to call it that. And the smaller muscle groups, if you've got time, sure. And you want aesthetics, sure.
So what's the best exercise program to help that middle-aged guy get a little stronger and lose some fat? How many days a week? I understand that you're going to individualize and personalize it for that person's body type, their level, their goals, but generically speaking.
I say you should aim for at least 3 days a week. I feel that 3 days is a good number of days, one, to get enough work done. If someone says, I only have 1 day, well, most of the times that's not really the case, but sometimes. But in 1 day, if you have an hour, all of your muscles can get work, but you're going to have to rush through them. If you have 3 days, let's say it's an hour each, that's plenty of time to do all the muscles in your body, all of your basic patterns. Let's see, 1 day you have a squatting pattern, 1 day a hinging pattern, 1 day a pressing pattern. Then it also gives you some time to do some athletic training, which I think a lot of people don't do enough of. Strength training is great, but go do some medicine ball throws, do some shuffles and karaoke and move around almost like you were when you were a kid. I'm not saying do backflips and jump off of dressers and things like that, but give your body some percussive force, like some hops, some jump rope. It gives you enough time to do enough variety where you keep your tissues healthy. You maintain your ability to hop. If you have, let's say you're walking out in the street and a car jumps out. Well, I should be able to jump out of the way, at least enough so I don't get hit. Doing some jump rope, things like that. And then to strength part, we've all had to carry groceries, a farmer's walk. 3 days a week will allow you to do that. You can do your hinging like a deadlift. You can do your overhead press. So I think 3 days a week. And then, I think that's sufficient.
Now, you have an interesting background in that I read your bio, and your mom, and correct me if I'm wrong, had a blood sugar issue. She was a type 2 diabetic, and it kind of flipped you out, and, you wanted to make an indelible mark on her. So you created a new lifestyle and a new diet for her. And my understanding was she was able to get off the drugs and live a healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
So that's what drove you into want to work one-on-one with everybody, and make that health is wealth kind of impact.
She was one of my main motivations. And I think it was the straw, so to speak, right? Because prior to that, I was always interested in nutrition and exercise. I did martial arts as a kid. I got my black belt in Okinawan Goju-Ryu. I played football. I did track and field. I did BMX skateboarding. So I was always very active. When it came to the nutrition part, food was always interesting in that when I was a kid, my mom's Italian. So I grew up in the kitchen with her. So I always had a connection with food and understanding that, we want a variety of food. My mom always fed me well. It was always a protein source, a carbohydrate source, a vegetable source. So I understood that. Then when I got older and I started to get into sports, I thought to myself, I'm like, there's got to be a way I need to eat in order to be optimal. It was kind of a little intuitive. So then with her, growing up in an Italian kitchen, a lot of pastas, a lot of breads, she didn't work out so much. Then when she got the diagnosis, I had started to get interested in nutrition. And I'm like, well, there's got to be something I can do to help. So I just started reading. And I must have printed out a stack of papers off the computer, just articles and different things, the size of Webster's dictionary. I'm just reading through these things. Okay, so carbs, okay, this, and blood sugar. Okay, what does it mean to be a diabetic? What are the possible side effects? Oh no, you stub your toe, you could lose it. All the things. And I also understood that, well, if there's blood sugar in your bloodstream, you use your muscles, that sucks it up, generally speaking. So I told her, I'm like, listen, and she was also a smoker for 35 years. And she had quit. She's been off cigarettes for decades. And I just encourage her, hey mom, let's go for a walk. Did you get a walk in today? And in the beginning it was hard. And I'm telling you guys this because if you have any relatives that are not as healthy as they could be, and you're trying to encourage them, you gotta understand who they are and what they're willing to do. So in the beginning, she used to yell at me, Christian, get off my back. I'll take care of it. And over time, I would just give her encouragement, tell her there was a place called Curves, which used to be a gym that was for all women. She joined that, and it was 30 minutes, a 30-minute circuit. She met women. She was in there having fun. She lost a bunch of weight. And then we started to really make changes in her diet because the doctor said, yeah, this is great. You're moving. I'd like to see some more weight come off you. She's like, well, the Curves is doing good, but now I got to change my eating. And that's when we started having conversations. And then once that happened, I'm like, well, if I helped her, that means I can help other people. I already loved being fit, helping my friends. I used to coach my friends in the gym, not as a business, but just I was kind of the leader of the pack. And they were like, oh, we're going to do what Christian's doing. I'm like, all right, guys, so we're going to do back day today, right? So I had a propensity for coaching, and then it just took off from there.
Now, you've competed in different kind of athletic events, I think powerlifting, bodybuilding, things of that nature.
Yes, I currently compete as a bodybuilder. I did track and field, martial arts. So
you have that athletic background. I know we really wanted to cover the TRT question because everybody's talking about it. It's a hot topic. So let's talk a little bit about TRT in the testosterone replacement therapy. Does it cause men any side effects that they may want to be concerned with?
Okay, great question. So it's a growing topic with a lot of the anti-aging industry becoming bigger and bigger, and more people are discussing it. So things to consider with TRT. First and foremost, the first thing, as I mentioned, is make sure your lifestyle is ideal, right? You're exercising, eating healthy, sleeping, so on and so forth. Next thing, get a blood test. Don't guess. A lot of us guys like to guess. Well, I think that thinking is fine. That's great. Thinking is a good thing. But blood doesn't lie. So get a blood test. Take a look at what your free testosterone is, total testosterone, SHBG, what your insulin or your blood sugar, resting glucose or fasting glucose. And you get that panel, get a comprehensive metabolic panel, look at that first, then see what it says. So if your numbers are up, then maybe it's your lifestyle, but we'll go on into that another time. So when it comes to potential side effects, some guys will complain, and this is not the majority, this is on the more rare side, but some guys will say, hey, I get anxiety. To which I would say, oftentimes, so testosterone in and of itself doesn't cause anxiety. But look at the time we live in today. There's more people on SSRIs, antidepressants. There's more people on Lexapro and everything for anxiety and depression. So it's more likely these days that you're going to have a guy who has anxiety and depression, irrespective of his testosterone. So the first thing I say is, well, let's look at cause versus effect. And Doc, you talk about this a lot. It's like with gut issues. Sure, you've got leaky gut. That's not the cause. What caused the leaky gut? So you have anxiety. It's not likely the testosterone. What's going on in your life? What's your lifestyle like? Personal life, work life, so on and so forth. So generally it'd be anxiety. Some guys might complain of bloating and distension. Again, there's questions that I would have for these individuals because, again, it's always very individual. Then people talk about cancer, right? There was this big outbreak of, no pun intended, of, oh, well, testosterone causes cancer. No, that's been dispelled time and time again. And in fact, your likelihood of getting some sort of cancer, let's say prostate cancer, actually goes up with very low T. So having optimal levels of a hormone are going to help your body function best. That's its ability to, let's say, process and partition food, its ability to fight off things, having a proper immune function, like your book, Immune Reboot, right? If you have a person who's producing the proper hormones or they are supplementing with them and you're doing replacement, that puts your body in a better state to be less likely to get disease. So in my one professional and personal opinion, and based on the research, having a man on testosterone is much less likely that he will run into some sort of cardiovascular event or any sort of disease than if he just lived a life on low T and was suffering with those symptoms.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny when we talk about low T, a lot of the things that you alluded to were which tests. So I took some notes, and here we go. A bioavailable testosterone test, which measures both, like you said, free and total testosterone. An overall testosterone replacement therapy blood test panel should include a CBC, a PSA serum total, and total and free preparations of testosterone. Now, it's interesting. Free testosterone is what's floating around, and it's floating around with, like you said, a sex hormone and or an albumin, and the total is all together. So there's a differentiation in their ratios. Like we said, we don't want to necessarily go into the different ratios. However, where I really want to jump in, and as you guys all know, I love to talk about the gut health and testosterone. Gut health and hormones are interconnected. They have something called the gelding theory. Your gut endotoxin is leading to a decline in gonadal function. LPS, an endotoxin lipopolysaccharide, is released into circulation. This is a key inflammatory trigger underlying a lot of low testosterone problems. Endotoxin, that LPS, reduces testosterone production by adversely affecting the testes. So a lot of things I recommend, in addition to the blood tests that you mentioned, would be to look at a gut barrier panel, most predominantly LPS. Now that we covered all that, what about supplements? So, you know, regular supplements, vitamin D, vitamin C, that kind of stuff. Where are you on that?
I'm a fan. It's these days in America, it's somewhere in the realm of 60 to 70% of people are deficient in vitamin D. And those numbers are definitely arguable, but it's an alarming percent. Now, with the way we live these days, we're indoors most of the time, right? We're in our house, away from the sun. Then we get in our box, which is the car, and go work in our box, which is the office. Then we get back in the box and then go back to the box. That's our home, right? So we're always sheltered from the sun. Now, vitamin D, the sun is a large help for us to synthesize that. So within that blood panel, I recommend getting a vitamin panel. It's always good to know vitamins and minerals, where are they, right? You get, the electrolytes are included in your CBC, or your comprehensive metabolic panel. So I think that vitamin D is definitely something you want to make sure is in an optimal range. If it's low, that can affect your ability to produce testosterone. Vitamin D is extremely important. I mean, when you talk about bone health, right? A lot of guys don't think about osteoporosis, osteopenia. And just because it's just more prominent it's a more prominent discussion in the realm of women. But men, we have the issues also. We're all human beings. Our bodies function in a similar way. So I'm a fan of that. I think zinc, making sure your zinc levels are where they need to be, that's an important precursor for testosterone production. And yeah, starts off, just get the blood test. That's half the battle for me, is getting the guys to just get that done.
I love those supplements that you just mentioned. I'm going to add a few to help with testosterone. Aspartic acid, it increases testosterone levels. Actually, it improves luteinizing hormone, which stimulates the male testes to produce testosterone. The study showed that men aged 27 to 43 took that amino acid for 90 days and experienced a 30 to 60% increase in testosterone. Good age bracket, by the way. Fenugreek, to speak about your blood sugar. 2016 study, men who took 600 milligrams of fenugreek extract daily for 12 weeks experienced a significant increase in total testosterone. And ashwagandha, actually that stress hormone, that HPA axis you talked about before, increases testosterone in stressed individuals by reducing levels of that hormone cortisol. And here's the big guy. I call this the secret sauce, BPC 157, a peptide. It's a 15 amino acid agent that helps in the healing process. It promotes the healing of skin, muscle, bone, ligament, and tendon. It increases vascular flow to ligaments and tendons so you can train more, and it's shown to increase growth hormone receptors. BPC 157 is a breakthrough ingredient to help with injury repair, performance, and testosterone improvement. I love my BPC.
It's amazing. So it's funny, but peptides are one of the topics that I've just started to read even more into, because they do a lot of great for people. BPC 157, I would say that's probably the most popular, well-known, and one of the best. When you talk about soft tissue regeneration, like tendinous tissue, and people are just, so many people are praising its effects on them and improving their ability to train and repair old, tendon issues, shoulders, which is extremely common. And it's...
Sorry for that. It also increases collagen production, nitric oxide production. We're talking about that so much. Anti-inflammatory, helps with IBS. And you as an athlete, I know you've come across a lot of people who have taken the BPC 157. I take it via the oral route.
Yes. I've yet to come across someone who didn't say they've gotten a benefit from using it. It's very, very, and to you, okay, so your mention of nitric oxide, this is, just to touch on this quickly, insanely important. I did a podcast a while back with Dr. Nathan Bryan, who specializes in nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is so important for cardiovascular health. So men, that's another thing that you want to make sure your body's producing well. There's a company called Human, which makes these nitric oxide testing strips, where if you want to know where it is, again, we can talk about it today, but go about it another time in more detail. But it acts as a vasodilator. So when you talk about sexual function, right, when you're talking about TRT, getting erections, you need to have a healthy vascular system. That means your venules' ability to expand and contract. Nitric oxide is responsible for that, and it's produced in your venules. It's also almost acts like a surfactant to prevent things from sticking to it, like cholesterol, right? If you've got a healthy vascular system, it's an extremely important part of performing well in the gym, recovering well from exercise, sexual function, and a myriad of other things. So NO2 is extremely important. There's supplements out there to help. You want to talk about foods. There are foods like arugula, like beets, which have nitrates in them that convert to nitric oxide once you eat them. Not the nitrates. Well, some people hear that and they're like, but cold cuts, you shouldn't have nitrates. It's different. To keep it simple. Eating those foods will help your body produce more nitric oxide, and you absolutely need that.
So in a nutshell, lifestyle is a tenet for you, in that it's changing people's diet, changing people's exercise, scheduling them, food. But what I'm really curious about is what sparked your passion for men's health?
Okay, so when I was training full-time, before I went on to be, to do nutrition full-time, I was working at an Equinox out here in Westchester. And I got a lot of guys as my clients who were over 40, high-level executives, CEOs, entrepreneurs, very, very high-powered type A men. And a lot of them struggle with the same things, is that knee pain, back pain. They just, obesity, high blood sugar, high blood pressure. And a lot of these guys had similar desires in life, right? They're similar missions. I want to be the best provider, protector for my family that I can. I want to feel great. I want to be a pillar of strength for my family. I want to be a good example for my kids. And I resonated with that because I want the same things in my life. I want to be a great leader, great provider and protector for my family. So I understood, and these guys live the entrepreneurial life, which I live, right? It's, you put everything on the line to create this thing that is your baby, your career, or if you're a high-level executive and you're working for a big company, but there's a lot on your shoulders. And without a healthy body, you can't handle that. I would have guys come into me and we would sit down, like we're supposed to be training. They're like, dude, they're like, I have so much shit. Excuse my French. I have so much crap going on that there's like some days, man, I don't want to drive home at night because I know I love my family, but there's no place for me to de-stress and talk. Who do I talk to? And these guys with these struggles and low T, and not because they couldn't produce it, but there's so much stress. Their cortisol's through the roof, faces are red, and they didn't know how to get themselves out of this because the boss says, hey man, by Monday afternoon, I need that report. I need that fire put out. I need whatever it is. And these guys, their love life suffered, their ability to be there for their family got pieces of them. They came home from work, they are toast from the day, and their family gets leftovers. And they said, I don't want to be that man. So I decided, and I'm like, listen, I would give them advice besides just exercise, nutrition, stress management, how to build that warrior mindset and be that man that you know you're capable of. But it's hard to navigate through that. And after I helped these guys, there was one story, brief story of this guy, Stan, that I trained. And when he came to me, he was overweight, big dude, like 6'2". He was like 300 pounds. And I could tell by the way he walked, his body's stiff, knees, back pain, neck pain. So we got him moving a little bit better, changed his nutrition, and he couldn't run. He just had different issues in different areas of his body where he didn't feel youthful. So he had lost probably like 40 pounds at the time that this thing happened. He was at a hockey game with his kids, and they're at halftime. And they're hanging out by the bleachers just waiting for the next game to start. And his kids are running and playing on the bleachers. And they're like, or Stan looks at his kids, and he's like, I bet you I could jump up on that bleacher. And they're like, no, you can't, right? Because it was a decent height. And we'd been working on plyometric work, box jumps, things like that. So he jumps up there, and their eyes are like, oh my God, Dad, that's so cool. And when he told me that story, the look in his eyes, I'm a firm believer that every man should be their kid's superhero. And to be able to give him that opportunity back where he knows his kids look at him and they put him on this pedestal. My dad can do this, right? It's like when kids get into a fight, well, my dad could beat your dad up. To have a dad be able to have their kids say that and hear it from their kids, it struck a chord in me. And I'm like, you know what? It's my mission. I'm dedicating myself to helping men become the men they know they're capable of, and helping them with diet, with exercise, with their testosterone optimization, helping them become better leaders and just live healthier lives, because that makes a healthier family, and I think it makes a healthier country. So
I agree. Great stuff. My question is, how can people get in touch with you, follow you, that sort of thing?
So you can go to my website, relentlessfitnessandnutrition.com. On Instagram, I am Christian F. Palmer, F as in Frank. And on Facebook, I'm Christian Palmer. And YouTube, Relentless Fitness and Nutrition.
And I know that you co-host a podcast with Rob Fletcher. You want to share that?
The Rob Fletcher podcast. I've got a lot of information on that one. So we do episodes pretty frequently, but that is another place that you can check out my content.
Fabulous. But it's been great.
If they want to contact me, go to relentlessfitnessandnutrition.com, contact, and then that will come right to me.
Excellent. We'll put that all in the show notes. Listen, it's been my pleasure. I know you're busy. Thanks for your time. We got to do part 2. Christian Palmer. My name's Dr. Rob Silverman. Always yours at home.